Hello and welcome back to the complete course of Azure Machine Learning. In our last lecture, we have seen that we have created a table inside the new database, and that is the Azure DB, right? Now here we will see how do we register the external database or a table into our database or into our data storage so that we can use the data which resides outside our workspaces, right? So let's get started. So when you will go to this managed service called as a data stores, just click on this data stores. You will find that there are two default data stores present, right? One is for blob storage, and another one is for file storage. Now what we need to do it, we need to just click on the new data store, and this why I am doing it from the portal. This can also be done through the code, Python code. However, I am not doing it because it will ask for a few credentials like account keys, tenant ID, and all, which is a bit personal, right? So that's the reason I will not be able to execute that piece of a code. However, I'll be sharing this piece of a code wherein you will enter your own credentials and then execute that code, right? So for this, I will just create it from the portal, and it is the easiest three line of a code which I'll be sharing it with you. So what we can do it, we can give any name of this data storage name. Here you can see new DB, and what is the data storage type? It would be Azure SQL. And here the server name, this is demo12 Azure demo12, and the user ID which I have given it over here. So here it is the user ID, and the password is right. And just click yes over here, and then press create. And once you click create, the new data store will be created and attached to my workspace, right? So now new DB has been created over here. So how do I access the data? So for that, we will go to the Python Jupyter notebook, wherein we'll write some piece of a code, and uh, try to see how can we access the data which resides inside the SQLDB. So before that, I just need to import few libraries from Azure ML dot core port data store, right? And that's it. So here what I'll do, I'll just try to ds equals to data store. I'm creating an object which resides inside this workspace. So I'll give workspace and the new data storage name. So here if I'll see, it was new DB. So here the name was new DB. So I'll just keep it over here as new DB, right? So now this ds variable is having an object which points to this new database or a new data store which is linked to the Azure DB, SQL DB, right? So here, once it is done, what we need to do it, we need to import few libraries, right? So uh, what we need to do it here, I just import few libraries from Azure ML.core, import dataset from Azure ML data path import data path, right? And this library is required to register or to let you know where your table resides, right? So here now I can write the SQL query over here and try to retrieve the data into a data frame format. So here what we need to do it, we just need to write a query. Query equals to call this function data path, and call the object which is linked to this new data storage. So the object is ds, right? So ds comma, and then select star from sales lt dot customer. So there was a typo. I'll just change this. It's a query, right? And now, so if you'll execute this and try to find out what query is, you will see this is an object, right? So now to call this object and to call the data from this object, we need to convert this into a SQL format or into a tabular format. So now we will write our dataset1 equals to dataset dot, because it is in a tabular format, tabular, and from SQL query, and you will just pass this query over here, right? So now what it does, it fetch the value from this database and create a data set for it. Now this data set, if you'll just see over here this ds1, you will see the data, it is in a dataset format. So it is a read data source SQL. So, but how do we retrieve the data? So before retrieving a data, we need to register this storage into uh, our data set. So I'll show you over here. This is the data set, right? So now you have create a new data store. However, you need to register it into a data set as well, because from here itself you will pull the data, right? So now what you need to do, you just need to register it as a ds1 equals to dataset1 dot register, and the workspace and any name. So I will just write an Azure DB table, correct? And now if you will see here, my data set is registered. Now if you can now if you can create this data set into a data frame format. So what you need to do is ds1 dot to pandas data frame, right? And you can just give a head. So once it is done, so here you just need to see how this data frame is created, correct? So what you did it, so you have pulled the data from the external source and ingest it into your workspace. Now this data frame you can use it into your machine learning, right? And if you'll go here and click on this data stores, you can see this is new db which has been stored here, and this data set which you have registered here, right? You have registered with the name of Azure DB table. So this data set is been registered here, and now because it has been registered here, so you can pull this data from this data set and create it into a data frame. So in this lecture we have learned how to pull the data from the external source and create a data frame out of it. Thank you.